Around this time on a Thursday. Let's catch up with Stratford-upon-Avon's James Luxford. He's our film critic, and we'll get him to maybe have a little peek ahead for us, as well as look at some of the movies that are opening up this week. Morning, James.
Good morning.
How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. A big week for cinema lovers, of course. Cinemas are back.
Yeah, well, I did think of you when we were broadcasting on Monday morning and saying what was back open again and saying cinemas are back open again. And I thought James is going to be down there knocking the door down with a first bag of popcorn, watching the first movie you can possibly go and see. What have you managed to catch up with this week?
Well, on Tuesday, I went up to Birmingham Odeon. It's a cinema I'm very fond of, the old architecture and the history of the building as a performance venue, and so many great acts playing there, and just converted into this kind of cavernous multiplex. And I went to see The Terminator. I wanted to see something a bit old and a bit familiar to ease me back in. I think so many new releases tend to be associated with work for me. I just, for this first time back, wanted something that I could just enjoy as a fan, and it was absolutely wonderful.
I love that building. I saw Duran Duran play live in there in 1982.
Wow.
So yeah, I know, I'm mad. And actually went to see. They showed when it was really controversial. Monty Python's Holy Grail, which is only shown in a handful of cinemas. And I remember going to watch it at the Odeon when it was released. We all felt like naughty schoolboys going to go and watch it at the time. So absolutely understand it, but absolutely get why you'd have wanted to see a classic, really, and immerse yourself in that rather than look at it with the reviewer's eye. But it's your reviewer's eye that we want to try and tap into now for your the three movies you've had a look at for us this week. Starting off with Chris Rock's brand new film.
Yes, it's Spiral from the Book of Saw in cinemas now, and it's a reboot of the Saw franchise that stars comedian Chris Rock in a serious role as a detective chasing a killer whose murders resemble the Jigsaw murderer.
Jigsaw? Wait, I thought the Jigsaw killer was dead.
He is.
Find him. You got hours, not days.
How can I catch this guy? If there's nobody on the force I can trust!
You can't do this alone.
Whoever did this has another motive. Something personal.
Is it horrifying? Is it frightening? Were you hiding behind the couch watching this?
Well, I'm not the best with horror movies, as we've discussed before, but I like this. I think it was it's kind of a way of reinventing the Saw franchise. Obviously, there's about, I believe, 8 previous movies, and all of which kind of they sort of fell into a formula that sort of relied on the gore. This relies a bit more on being a detective story. I think it's maybe revived into something that might draw in people who might not have considered going to see a Saw movie, particularly for the last few installments when they sort of fell into a formula. This might push away some people who like that formula, who were perfectly happy going and indulging in what the Saw movies became. So I don't know. There's a bit of push and pull there. For me, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Chris Rock in something different, something far more serious than we're used to seeing him in, and he does a great job alongside a good cast, which includes Samuel L. Jackson as his father, who was kind of this legendary police detective. So I think an interesting movie, and one that brings something different to a very familiar formula.
Okay, moving on. Angela Jolie is back. Tell us a bit about this.
Yes, she stars in Those Who Wish Me Dead in cinemas now as well. She plays a forest firefighter protecting a young boy on the run from deadly assassins.
Hey, stop! I'm not gonna hurt you. I want to see where the blood's coming from. It's not my blood. You in trouble?
My dad said if anything happened, I should find someone I can trust. Are you someone I can trust?
That sounds a bit more like an action thriller.
It does, and it is. It reminded me of kind of very 90s action thrillers, specifically Cliffhanger, the Sylvester Stallone film, which this has a lot in common with. That kind of mountain range rescue chase movie. Angelina Jolie is great. It's not the most complex film she's ever made, but it as a good, fast-paced thriller. This will be great for the cinema. I think it's got a lot of good people in it. Aidan Gillen from Game of Thrones, John Bernthal from the TV series The Punisher. Some good talent in there, bringing, I suppose, something of a simple story to life, but an effective one as well.
Good stuff. So, of the 3 picks you've gone for this week, this next one is the one I am really looking forward to. I watched the trailer for this yesterday, and the knowledge that you're going to come on and talk about it, and it brings Billy Piper back to our screens.
Yes, on Friday it's Rare Beasts in cinemas. Billy Piper writes, directs, and stars as a single mother whose chaotic world is brightened by an unlikely new relationship.
Look, you're late every day.
I love you. Your breath smells.
You're angry, seething. And you know people are calling you Scottish.
I'm not Scottish. So why are you single, Pete?
I find women intolerable.
Right.
And the trailer goes on even more. I have to say, I thought she looked brilliant in the trailer for this. I think the plot in itself looks like it's a bit of a tangled, toxic web. Just talk us through this a bit, James.
Yeah, it's very interesting, kind of an anti-rom-com, if you will, as you heard from there. I think it's going to be it's a little cynical, but in a very funny way. It's sort of taking apart expectations of relationships and gender roles in society, and just people dealing with, I suppose, problematic personal lives. And yeah, I think it's on the cynical side, but I think it's a fantastic debut for Billie Piper behind the camera. It's clearly trying something different in terms of her script, in terms of her direction, in terms of her storytelling, in terms of her acting. I think this is a really good movie to debut in cinemas, and there are so many movies that in the last year and a bit have come to videoed on demand that I've been a little bit disappointed they have, because it feels like when something like that drops onto on demand, it falls into a sea of every movie that's ever made and might get a bit lost, even though it's easier to find. In some ways, it's harder to find because there's so much selection out there. This can get lost in the shuffle. I love that this is getting its debut in cinemas, and I love people are going to be able to have this as their first movie back or second movie back, just as long as they see it on a big screen.
Good stuff. And how nice was it to be able to do a movie review and refer to all 3 of your movies as in cinemas now or in cinemas from Fridays? Really, really nice to get that back.
Yeah, I was a little bit emotional writing my my notes, because I think it'd been so long. We of course had that little bubble, I suppose, between late summer and around November time, where we had cinemas open, but there wasn't an awful lot coming out. And there's so much sort of built up in that time. We've got all the Oscar winners in cinemas now. We've got a nice mix of classics in there as well. There's a few chains doing films like Grease and Gladiator, and of course The Terminator, which I saw. But yeah, it's just wonderful to see cinema being back and new movies coming out and being able to see them on the big screen.
And a summer of blockbusters, hopefully, to look forward to as well. James, good to speak to you as ever. James Luxford, our movie critic from Stratford-upon-Avon, with us this morning on BBC CWR.
Weekday mornings on